Welcome back to some Crusader Kings 3 with everybody's favorite rambling monologuer. My name is Foe0, and today we're playing as Jarl Haesteinn, a lot of people's favorite and or least favorite character in the 867 start, the Fearsome Viking. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different than what I've seen people do before with Haesteinn. I mean, with Haesteinn you can go anywhere. I've seen people take Haesteinn to India, I've seen people reform the Norse faith, I've seen people try and conquer the Holy Roman Empire as Haesteinn, but today I wanted to combine two things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. One being playing as Jarl Haesteinn, because who doesn't want to play as Haesteinn? He's fun, he's pretty easy, and he lives for freaking ever. And play as somebody of the Mozarabic faith. That is an aspect of the game that I haven't really covered in much depth yet, so that's what I wanted to go. I wanted to start trying to get Haesteinn fully involved, not just an interloper, but fully involved in the Iberian struggle, have him live within the struggle, conquer within the struggle, and see where we can go after he gets there. So how exactly are we going to be doing this? Now, first things first, we need to leave Montaigu behind and travel to Asturias. You can declare your adventure war for any duchy. I chose Galicia since it has a lot of provinces, is pretty rich, and is going to be bankrolling the entire campaign. You can choose any duchy belonging to Asturias, any duchy belonging to the Sultan. The Sultan's a little bit more difficult of a target, but since he's already fighting the Christians in the north, you can really pretty reasonably expect to conquer both of them, especially if you're willing to sink money into mercenaries, which I try not to do in my first war so that I can build buildings later on. The war is pretty easy. Our troops are just a lot better than Asturias. I mean, you can see we only had a 1 men-at-arms regiment there. So we walk in, we take some captives, and we take all of the land for ourselves, which is really, really, really nice to hold land as yourself. As Haesteinn, we're able to raise our runestone to help with some control growth, and we're just going to start building up Galicia as fast as possible while waiting for an opportunity to strike somewhere else. Now, a little bit about the Iberian struggle, if you aren't as well versed in the Iberian struggle as some who play this game a lot. You have to have an involved religion and culture to be considered an involved member of the struggle. If you have land and your capital is in the struggle region, aka Iberia, but you don't have the right combination of culture and religion, you're only going to be an interloper and you aren't going to be able to fully participate. So my strategy for becoming involved involves first converting to Mozarabism, which I touched on earlier was something that I've been wanting to do for a while, is play as a Mozarabic character, which you can do that pretty freely. As Haesteinn, it's pretty easy to convert to another religion. That's not really going to be a problem. So we can do that pretty easily. The other thing that we're going to have to do is form a hybrid culture. Now, I could just convert to Galician culture, but I didn't want to fully leave behind the Viking escapade, conquering Viking who pillaged the Mediterranean. You know, I didn't want to leave all of the North traditions behind. So I'm going to form a hybrid culture between Galician and Norse. Now, I'm sure there is a better culture to do this within Iberia to hybridize with, but I just wanted to go for Galicia, and if I'm being quite honest, I'm a little too lazy to do all of the research into which one is going to be technically the best, so I just went with whatever sounded the most fun. After the Frontier Rebellion ended, I was able to kind of try and swoop in and conquer the Duchy of Portugal to give us enough land to be able to form the Kingdom of Galicia. Another interesting thing that just popped up on your screen, our Haesteinn doesn't really feel like himself all the time. Not only is he a mad, crazy, pillaging Viking, but he is also possessed by a demon. Whether or not that's a Norse Asatru or a Christian or Mozarabic or what kind of demon, I don't really know, but he's got one. So he's a little out there, which just makes him even scarier if I'm being honest. So the war against Portugal, very easily, we just swoop in, we just scoop up the land. We had to deal with some mercenaries that he hired, but I mean, that's pretty much everybody in Iberia. You always have to watch out for the mercenaries. And then from here, I'm just going to be trying to manage the succession as much as possible between my different sons, so that when I die, hopefully all of my lands will go to my singular heir, and I'm not going to have to declare a succession war. So I'm just kind of micromanaging the succession here and there. and going from there. At this point in time, I was able to go ahead and convert religions, which, like I said earlier, it really doesn't take very much, just a little bit of piety. So we went ahead and converted, we got a nice little hat, and we ditched our Viking garb for the time being. So we also made a nice Mozarabic friend. Isn't that lovely? Haesteinn making friends instead of just killing everybody that he sees. This entire time I've also been promoting cultural acceptance with my steward, so that hopefully after enough time, we'll be able to form a hybrid culture. Another tip that you can do, if you really wanted to, you can culture convert a province or two to Norse, so that you get the intermingling in realm bonus. But I decided not to do that. We didn't really need it due to some fortunate events. I was able to form the Galician kingdom pretty early on, which was very nice, and I decided to adopt a Scandinavian succession, because when you're playing as an Asatru Norse Viking in Iberia, obviously your succession type is going to be the traditional Scandinavian succession. I mean, you have the opportunity to do it, why not? It's kind of funny. So I went ahead and did that, and then that means we have to elect our successor, or nominate our successor. So I chose my son, Ragnar, the father of Haestein's historical best friend, Bjorn Ironside, the future king of Sweden, I believe. I know his descendants were kings of Sweden for a long time. I don't know if he actually was, though. The son of Ragnar Lothbrok, who went to England and died, sparking the Sons of Ragnar invasion. There's your little history lesson here. Haesteinn was best buds with that guy. They rampaged through the Mediterranean together. This little thief guy turned up, and he wanted to kill me, so I decided to fight him. And I did a lot of different tactics, including throwing some sand in his face at the end to kind of throw him off so that I could reach in and stab him, which I did because I'm Haesteinn. I'm gonna stab anybody that's trying to mess with me. So I had another Mozarabic campaign planned for when I was first coming back to making YouTube comment. Instead of the one in Ethiopia, I wanted to do one in Iberia where I just spec'd a character out for prowess and made an absolute Giga Chad and had him rampage everything and do the whole Mozarabic Iberian struggle thing, end the struggle, yada yada. And then I played for about 30 minutes through a few years of content, and then I fought a thief with like 4 prowess and died. So that kind of ruined that YouTube video. There's a little peek behind the curtain for you, but that's what I had going on there. So I was scared to death when I was fighting this guy, even though I was Haesteinn, and Haesteinn is an absolute monster in combat, both leading troops and single combat. I was scared the random thief dude was gonna die, or was gonna kill me, not that he was gonna die. He can die and rot in the hole for all Haesteinn cares. I declared this little tiny war against Asturias for one county because I got bored, but since I wasn't fully involved yet, I wasn't able to do the struggle for a whole lot more territory, but I didn't want to be not expanding at any point in time, so Haesteinn rallied the troops, the event troops that we still had left, and we were going after Pravia. I mean, it would also make the borders look a little nicer, so. I was able to capture the Asturian war banner, which, okay, I feel like normally these artifacts are garbage. Does anybody else feel like that? I feel like every single time I capture a war banner, they wind up being hot trash. But this one was better than both my house banner and my dynasty banner. So we went and hung that up. I think that was the first time I've ever actually hung up a war banner. Normally I see that they're hot garbage and I don't even take them. But the war was easy. They were kind of walking in and walking into random places, which was a little awkward, but we were able to corral them back. And then randomly King Charles the Bald tried to kill me. Like, why? I didn't even know that Haesteinn starts rivaled to King Charles, but apparently we are, and he tried to kill me. He gave me a bunch of health debuffs too from the murder plot. So Haesteinn thought he was gonna die. But, you know, everybody knows it's Haesteinn. We're only like, what, 60 something at this point? Yeah, we're 62, we're feeling fine with some like major health debuffs. This guy just refuses to die. So, not even worried. King Charles, get out of here. No one needs you around. We win the war against Asturias, get the county, super easy, bada bing, bada bang. Now we gotta start increasing control, giving out land, doing the typical post-war things. I was holding some court, and someone walked in and was like, hey yo, Mr. Norse Kingman, you know, all of the Galician people are like, kind of cool. Don't you think so? And I said, yes, I do think so. Which let me go ahead and get the 20% needed to form our Gallico-Norse hybrid culture. I went ahead and kept bellicose and went with pretty much Norse everything else. So we took some of the best elements of both cultures in the traditions tab and got rid of the things that we didn't need anymore, like malleable invaders. And then after that, after I picked all of the traditions that I wanted, I went ahead and took Norse aesthetics and names and pretty much everything else except construction. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I went and took the castles with that. So it's Norse on the outside. It's also Norse on the inside, if I'm being honest. We just kind of stole some of their innovations, and went ahead and quote-unquote hybridized our culture. I started converting a couple counties at this point, but I really didn't continue that going on, because in my brain, I was like, I want to keep my culture small. That way, when I'm developing later on, I'll be able to get a bunch of institutions really fast. But that never really came into play later on. King Charles also kicked the bucket, serves him right for trying to kill me. And you know who else kicked the bucket? My son. He was murdered. I don't think I actually ever bothered to check to see who murdered him, but someone did, which meant that my first son, Ragnar, was the one who now ruled the 2 counties in Portugal. And in order to cope with this, Haesteinn decided to indulge in some alcoholic beverages. Not the greatest coping mechanism, but it's better than being melancholic in this game. We were able to take a dynasty legacy now, so I went with the first one in the adventure tree so that I could send people off to the Varangian Guard. I thought that was pretty cool. I figured, hey, I got some extra sons. I'll send them off to the Guard, and if, 1 or 2 extra decide to kick the bucket while they're in the Guard, then it's an honorable death. We'll mourn them, raise a runestone. It'll be fine. Life will go on. Attacked Asturias again, now that we're actually fully involved in the struggle, because we are both Mozarabic and of a culture that was, as the game puts it, born in the struggle. So we're able to use the Struggle Clash CB and take a lot of land at once, which is really, really, really nice. I love the Struggle Clash CB. It is absolutely broken. You can just take massive swaths of land at any given time. This battle was a little sketchy for a second, but then our reinforcements came in and we were fine. So not really anything of note there. And I also do want to note for everybody that in the background, I'm not really showing this, but in the background the entire time in between wars, I am building a lot of buildings in the Duchy of Galicia so that when we do die, because we're going to have a large army by the time that we do, when we do die, our heir will have the finances required to fund that army to put down any potential rebellions. Because in a lot of your campaigns, I don't know if this happens to everybody, it definitely happens to me. You die, your vassals hate you, your vassals rebel, stop paying you. Oh no, where did all of the money go? And you got this massive army that your 75-year-old dad could afford, but you can't. So didn't want that to happen. So we're building a lot of buildings and ransoming a lot of prisoners that we take so that we can continue building buildings, and the cycle continues. At this point, we were in kind of a weird power situation because we were stronger than Asturias by far, and we were beating them up easily every single time we fought them. But the Sultan to our south was still pretty scary, especially when he had enough money to hire mercenaries. So instead of looking south, I went ahead and gobbled up all of the little one province minor people in the center, and I pretty much just, you declare war on them, you walk in, you siege them down, not even a challenge for Haesteinn. So we just kind of did that on repeat and conquered all of these people in one fell swoop. It made our borders really, really ugly, but after our next war with Asturias, that'll all be solved, so nothing to really worry about there. What I was waiting for now was the Sultanate to my south to break up when the Sultan dies, because the Sultan was holding 3 kingdom titles, so I knew as soon as he kicked the bucket, his sons were going to just annihilate the realm, split it into 3. They might ally each other, which could be a little bit of an issue, and see right there, that's exactly what happened. But it would be a lot easier than just attacking Al-Andalus directly. But first I wanted to kind of clean up the borders a little bit, make things look nice and pretty. And another thing to note, I could have been making a lot more kingdom titles as I was conquering on, but I had the succession arranged in such a way that once I died, everything was going to be inherited by my first son. So I didn't want to somehow mess that up by actually making the extra titles. I wasn't sure why it wasn't getting divvied up. I think it has something to do with the combination of me being on Scandinavian succession and as my primary title, and then not holding another kingdom title. So it wasn't really partitioning things, I think, the way that it was intended to. So I wanted to try and keep it that way. Also interesting to note, I didn't cover it when it was on the screen, but I did send like my third son to the Varangian Guard because he sucked. So we'll see what happens to him. I don't know if he's going to come home. I don't really care. Haesteinn didn't really care, if I'm being honest. So we'll see as we're fighting the, not the Caliphate, the Sultanate for the first time. Again, he was allied to his brothers, which made it a little bit more difficult, but we're Haesteinn, we have godlike advantage. Every single time we fight him, we just make sure that the multiple armies aren't all grouped together, and bada bang, you're cooking with gas. This little maneuver that the AI does here, that my ally Italy does, I thought was a little interesting because I've never seen the AI do this before. It's like what people do in EU4 multiplayer sometimes, where they'll send a smaller stack to cut off the reinforcements to the main battle and just buy time. So Italy just completely sacked 1,600 men into the mountains to buy us enough time to finish that battle and get enough war score, which I've never seen the AI do something that intelligent. I think it might have been something really, really dumb that just turned out to be intelligent by the AI. You never really know. I hate giving the AI the benefit of the doubt because I've been screwed over by them way too many times. At this point, though, Haesteinn's realm was pretty much strong enough to just chain war the 3 different sultanates to the south. The only real scary part is when they sometimes ally somebody big or call in some mercenaries. But like I said before, as long as you make sure to fight the different stacks while they're separated and you don't let them group up, and thirdly, you make sure that you're fighting on favorable terrain for your army composition, you're going to be totally fine. We finished the entire martial tree, so I swapped over to the learning lifestyle focus and took medicine focus just to see how long I could get Haesteinn to live. Apparently I could get him to live longer than a lot of his sons because another one died. Not Ragnar, not our heir, but just a little weird that yet another one of our sons died. Maybe it's a bad omen for the future, who knows? But at this time, this was the end of my first recording session of this, so I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to past editor Ian, who has already recorded the next segment, and let him say a brief thing real quick. At this point in the video, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to all the people that have been watching over the past, I think it's only been a little over a week. It's been 2 weeks actually to the day since I started making content again on this YouTube channel. And in those 2 weeks, we're pushing 1,000 views total across the videos that I've uploaded since then, and almost 109 hours watched, which just kind of blows my mind. I don't know. So I just wanted to pause for a little bit, put a cool picture of Haesteinn and his family on the screen, and just say thank you to all of the people watching the videos. You know, you guys are the reason that I have fun making these, the reason that I put effort into this, and just knowing that I've been able to hopefully bring at least a few seconds of joy into almost 1,000 people's lives in the past week has just been amazing. So I'll let you guys get back to the content, and I'll see y'all next time. Thank you, past editor Ian. We're back with current time editor Ian, which is in a different time as the Ian that recorded the gameplay. I don't know. Stuff's getting a little wacky around here. All I know is that it's time for another war against Al-Andalus. Now, another goal that I wanted to set for myself with this Mozarabic Viking campaign is I wanted to break away from the papacy. I wanted to kind of conform into the Iberian struggle, but then once we were in the Iberian struggle, break away from the Catholic Christian Church and the Pope as a head of faith, and establish our own and go our own direction and experience all of the fun CK3 flavor with that. So I've been trying to stack piety with Haesteinn before he dies in order to have enough to be able to do this, and we're getting so close. We need to have the level 3 level of devotion, so I've been trying to spam pilgrimages, I've been trying to take piety events, I've been trying to do a lot of that stuff so that we can hopefully do it before we die. I had kind of come to terms with the fact that we probably weren't going to live long enough to be able to do it in Haesteinn's lifetime, or so I thought, but I wasn't gonna just let Haesteinn die without trying to do as many fun things as possible as this character. So in between warring, Haesteinn's going on pilgrimages, he's visited the Vatican, he's visited Jerusalem, he's visited everywhere that a good Christian Viking needs to visit. Except, remember our friend court chaplain from before? He just decided to saw his wife's leg off. The church giveth and the church taketh away. I don't know what to tell you. We made sure it wasn't going to happen again, but our wife is definitely going to die. Immediately following the war that Haesteinn just got out of, he was able to go on one final pilgrimage out to the Vatican just to say hi to the Pope before returning and telling the Pope to stop meddling in Mozarabic affairs. So he kind of said, hi, what's going on? I'm in the Vatican. Hi, Mr. Pope. And then he came home and he's like, screw you, Pope. We're not doing this anymore. You don't know what's going on here. You don't understand me like you think you do. Get out of my business. And that's exactly what he did. All roads lead to Rome, and this road that Haesteinn is on leads back home from Rome, never to go back ever again. So we came back, he returned from his pilgrimage. We have to actually wait for the event where he gets home. Wow, he's home. Wow, fantastic. Okay, now we can push the button to separate from the papacy. There's a lot of different options that you can go for after this. You can go like an Islamic syncretic route. You can go a more fundamentalist route. There's a lot of different options that you can pick here. I almost chose the one that was the Islamic syncretism route, but I wound up going for the fundamentalist one instead, which I think was fun thematically, but I think if you're actually wanting to play the game optimally, however you define optimally in this game, I think what you're going to want to do is go for the Islamic syncretism, because a lot of our vassals who were Mu'alladi or Ashari, things like that, really started to hate us after we were conquering them, understandably, and that posed a lot of issues with them just being disgruntled all the time, and it was really annoying, at least I thought. But the march south continued, Haesteinn still refusing to die with all of his health bonuses. I mean, the guy is just crazy. I didn't expect him to live this long. I didn't expect him to do any of this except conquer the kingdom and then, do a few things like that. And like I said before, it was an omen because Ragnar died in a failed coup, assassination, suicide attempt thing that was going on. But our heir that we had been banking on inheriting after all of this was killed by this random assassin guy trying to get to me. My wounds were immediately healed by our physician. Everything was totally fine, but Ragnar was murdered. So for that, I decided to blind and imprison the guy who did it in his failed coup attempt so that he can rot in the dungeon for the rest of his days. Now, our new heir, actually, believe it or not, is the one that we earlier sent to the Varangian Guard because he sucked. He did come back, and he does have the Varangian trait, which is kind of cool, but he does still suck. He's not great. Our other son is better, aside from the fact that he's melancholic and irritable, but he has the athletic trait, he has a bunch of other stuff. The other one, very bad. Anyways, we were able to summon the 19th Council of Toledo, which we decided would be an entirely Mozarab synod, which was very cool. It's just some extra flavor that I think is really neat. You can actually take this event multiple times, which I didn't because it seems like you shouldn't be able to, because each time it says that you're going to summon the 19th Council of Toledo. So I think this is just supposed to be a one-time thing. So I only clicked the button once because, we're all about LARPing here. We're all about role-playing. That's not true at all. But, I don't want to do something multiple times that seems like it's going to, not intended to be that way. But that's just me. You click the button as many times as your heart desires. We summoned all of the clergy together. We were reconstructing the Mozarab faith, separate from the papacy, determining what direction we wanted it to go in, and everything was going really, really, really well at this point in time in the playthrough. I was really excited for where we were going with this. And the debate was on whether or not to focus on converting a lot of the other people in Iberia, which, to continue our kind of fundamentalist Mozarab little bit of roleplay that we had going on, I decided to go for it. I mean, if we didn't really go for it, you get some pretty nasty penalties that I also just didn't want to deal with. So we wound up going for the conversion route, which gives us some nice benefits and a little bit of piety. Interestingly enough, it also instantly changes the struggle phase to hostility. So if you're in opportunity, if you're in conciliation, it'll immediately change it to hostility, which could be good or bad, depending on what you're going for. If you're trying to end the struggle through Iberian dominance, then it is going to be a really good thing for you. We were able to declare this really, really nice, satisfying war on Al-Sark, where we can get kind of this huge line of territory going on, but the only bad thing about it is it leaves this one province in the center that's controlled by Al-Andalus that we just kind of have to live with and deal with. But we were just continuing to march south, and everything was going fantastically. We had this Duke of Tulatula, which I wanted to convert, so I asked him very kindly. Some guy showed up to pay homage while we were waiting for his response. He said no. We tried to imprison him. He said no again. He raised his 219 men. Haesteinn, trying to rally his army on the border, immediately gets captured and deposed. So that's how Haestein's reign ends. Trying to rally troops and getting caught by 200 men. The succession was not safe. The Varangian took over, and our son took over the entire kingdom of Leon and all of the vassals that came with it. So we had to waste absolutely no time while he was still weak, and before the Muslim sultans to the south could kind of recover and maybe gang up on him or something while he was also weak. We just went straight in. He really didn't have a lot of troops, so all we did was walk in, siege down his capital, break down the door to his chambers, and drag him out, kicking and screaming. And then we ripped the crown off of his head and placed it on ours. And just like that, we're back to full strength. Also, if you can see it on screen right there, if you did for a second, there was a completely southwestern kingdom of Navarra for a second, where the Sultan of Zenzir still technically held the title, because I never usurped it, never bothered to. So he made that his primary for a second, which I thought was just really funny to see. But our father, Haesteinn, died shortly afterwards of a seizure when he was 93 years old. So Haesteinn almost made it to conquer all of Iberia, but when we were declaring the last few wars, unfortunately suffered the stroke and died. But we had already dealt with the inheritance at that point, so we didn't even get a pop-up or anything. I was kind of disappointed. We just got like a little message in the bottom right that was like, oh, by the way, your dad's dead. You're stressed out about it. So, you know, a little unceremonious for King Haesteinn, but it is what it is, I guess. We're able to fully clean up Zenzir in the southwest through a series of pretty short wars, and really we just had Cadiz in the south that was holding out after this war, cleaning up Al-Sark. We just had the one province that we had to get to, and I was trying to see how I could end the struggle, because I hadn't seen, it used to be a decision, I thought, but now you have to go into the actual struggle screen, and I saw that we could have done it a long time ago, but every single de jure county of your capital kingdom had to be of your culture and your faith. It was already all our faith, except for maybe a couple, I think. But culture converting it was going to take so long that I decided, you know what, just conquering the entire peninsula is going to be fine. I don't need to formally end the struggle. So in order to conquer the entire peninsula, I had to take Barcelona, which involved fighting Aquitaine, because they had held it for a really long time. So we declared a holy war on the Catholics for Barcelona, which felt a little weird, but doing it as a Mozarab. But I guess we are still Mozarab Vikings that have broken with the papacy. I don't know, this whole situation is just pretty odd. But once we routed the Aquitanian army here in the mountains, we pretty much had free reign to siege down all of Barcelona. After that, we turned our attention back to the south towards conquering Cadiz, which again we basically did as we have been for a long time now, since the reign of our father, King Haesteinn. We just kind of walked in and sieged them all down. So for this video, I wanted to go for more of a long form voiceover kind of video, so this is really my first attempt at it. Let me know what you think, if you have any thoughts. I know a couple people in the last video said that they liked the voiceover style, but I wasn't sure how exactly it would go for a longer video like this. I am planning more live commentary videos as well, like the how many people can I murder as a single character, how many kids can I have as a single character, doing more fun stuff like that, but I also want to sprinkle in some more long form, longer campaigns like this. So if you have any thoughts on how it went, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe, it helps a lot, and until next time, stay safe out there. I'll see y'all then.